Welcome to Computer Concepts and Applications at Neosho County Community College. This is course CSIS 100. In Chapter 12, beginning on page 353, we'll be exploring how to use and query an Access database. Organizations and individuals rely on data to complete transactions, make decisions, and otherwise store and track information. Data that is stored in an organized manner to provide information to suit a variety of purposes is called a database. Microsoft Access is a software program designed to organize, store, and maintain very large amounts of data in an application referred to as a database management system. In this chapter, you will learn database terminology and how to navigate a DBMS. On page 354 of your textbook, we'll first understand database objects and terminology. Remember that an Access database is structured and organized with a very specific purpose. This helps keep track of large amounts of data. Look at the chart on page 354. There are 4 objects described: a table, a query, a form, and a report. We'll be building each of these in the first database that we're going to open, which is called Library Finds. Take a moment and locate the file, which can be found on the student data CD that came with your textbook, or you can choose to download the file from Inside NC on this particular assignment. Take a few minutes and locate Chapter 12 in the student data files, and then locate the file called Library Finds. Notice when you open the database file, you'll receive a security warning at the top. Please be sure to enable the content so you'll be able to work in the database. You'll also need to save a copy of the file. Save the copy to a location of your choice, or you can place it to your student data files folder. Make sure that you save it with your last name attached to the end. If necessary, slide or drag right the gray border along the right side of the navigation pane to expand the width. This way you can see all of the objects on the left-hand side. You'll also notice that the 4 objects that Access includes are listed for you: tables, queries, forms, and reports. Data in a database is organized by topic or subject about a person, a place, event, item, or other category. This is referred to as a table. Let's select the first table in this database. It's called Finds. Double-click to open up the table. Here, you can see a table that lists the Find ID, the student ID, date issues, amount, an overdue book ISBN number, if the book had been returned, if the fine had been paid, and when it had been paid. Also, if you get a security warning again, please be sure to enable the content. Next, let's look at the Students table. The Students table lists information about the address, city, state, zip code, phone, and email of the individual student. This can also be referred to as a data sheet. It resembles a spreadsheet with the data organized in columns and rows. Each row in the data sheet allows all of the fields for one person, place, event, or item, and each row is called a record. The data that is stored in one field within a record is called a field value. Let's select the Finds by Student name in the Report group. A report is designed to view or print data from one or more tables or queries. It can often have a customized layout and with summary totals. In this report, Library finds are arranged and grouped by student name in alphabetical order. Next, we'll close out of the report by selecting the X on the right-hand side. Be careful not to choose the top X or you'll exit the program. Let's take a look at the form called Find Entry Form. A form is used to enter, update, or view one record at a time. You can select the next record at the bottom by choosing the arrow pointing to the right. This allows you to scroll through each of the records and identify them. You may also choose to use the search box, where you can search for a specific record. Choosing the first chevron arrow that points to the left will take you back to the very first record. The last chevron will take you to the last record. Let's close this form. Next, let's take a look at the query. The query is called Finds Issued. Double-click to open the query. A query opens in a data sheet that's very similar to a table. A query displays information from one or more tables and may show all of the records or only a subset of records that meet a specific condition. Close the query and the two tables. Then we will close the database. Next, on page 358, it has you reopen the database and remember to find the database that you have saved and not the one that came with the student data files. Make sure all security warnings have been enabled. Next, let's open the Finds table. We're going to select a new record in the table. Select the new record icon at the bottom of the status bar. Let's type in the ID of 15-118 and press Tab to move to the next field. Notice there's a drop-down that we can choose from that has a list of all of the students embedded into the table. We're looking for Angela Doxtator. Once you find her, select her one time and then press Tab. The date will be 12 of April of 2015. Next, her fine amount is $8.75. On page 359, the overdue book ISBN field is listed on step number 10. Please type this number in on step number 10. Tab again to go to the next field. To place a check mark in that field, press the space bar. The book has been returned. Tab again. The fine has also been paid. The date it was paid is the 15th of April. We'll continue to add another field entry on step number 14. Press the Tab key to add a new field. Now we're going to be typing in all of the record information found on page 359. Please be sure to save your database when you're completed by doing a shortcut of Control-S. New records can also be added to the table using any of the methods on the bottom of page 359, Control++, or tapping in the last cell and pressing Tab. On page 360, we're now going to learn how to edit and delete records in a database. Let's select the text Murphy in the student last name column. Before we do that, we'll need to open up the correct table, which is referred to as students. Now, look for Murphy, which is the 6th row down. Instead of Murphy, we're going to replace Suzanne's last name with Hall. Then, using the tab key, we'll tab over to the email field. The new email address will be hall@emcp.net. Next, we'll tap or click at the end of the N8T3W9 and the postal code. And instead, we'll replace it with 286. Now, we're looking for the record Das Aparna. This name, we need to select the entire record. Note that this is towards the midsection, this student's name, and to make a selection of the entire record, you select the gray box in front of the name to highlight the entire row. We'll be deleting out this record. To delete, choose Delete at the top under the Table Tools. Notice you'll get a warning message asking you to please confirm if you want to delete this record. Choose Yes. The record has been deleted. We'll leave the database open for the next topic, beginning on page 362. Let's open the form called Find Entry Form. Now, we'll select to create a new blank record. From here, we'll add the field values found on page 362. Notice that this is the exact same way we had done it previously. However, this time we're using a form to enter the values. Once completed, travel back to the first record in the form fields. There was a mistake with this student. $7.25 is owed, not this amount of $8.75. Please replace it with $7.25. Tap or click the next record to go to record 3. On this record, we'll be deleting this from the Home tab. Choose the Delete option and then select Delete Record. When confirming, please be sure to choose Yes. The record has been deleted. On page 364, let's open the Finds table again, which we can use the tab to go back and forth, or you can double-click. Let's tap or click to place the insertion point within the student ID field value in the first record. Now, we're going to choose the Find option, which is found under the Home tab. The Find and Replace dialog box is listed. If we're looking for a specific number, we can type in the number that we're looking for in the Find box. This number can be found on step number 4. Then select Find Next. Notice how it will highlight the number that has been found. Notice if you select Find Next again and keep choosing it till you get to the end, it'll tell you that the search item was not found. However, we have found 6 matches. When completed, you can select the Cancel button to close out of the Find and Replace. Next, let's put the insertion point within the Find ID field of the first record. Then let's select Replace. From here, we're going to find 15 hyphen and replace it with 2015. Tap or click to match the case. Then select Replace All and choose OK. If you don't receive any results, you also need to make sure that the drop-down field for Match is any part of the field. Then select Replace All. It'll ask you, are you sure that you want to do this, as you won't be able to undo? Choose Yes to continue. Notice the Find IDs have now been modified. Select the Close to close out. Now, select your insertion point in any record within the Date Issued field. Tap or click the More button in the Records group of the Home tab, and then tap Field Width from the drop-down list. The column width that we want will be a Best Fit or a Standard Fit. Let's select Best Fit. Best Fit is similar to AutoFit in Excel in that the column width is lengthened to accommodate the longest entry. Let's close the Finds table. When asked to save, choose Yes. You can also adjust column widths using methods found on page 365, double-clicking boundaries in the column or typing a value in the column width. On page 366, we'll now practice with sorting and filtering records, which is probably one of the greatest features of Microsoft Access. With the database still open, let's open the Students table. Inside of the Students table, the primary key needs to be identified. Remember that a primary key is a field that is unique to every record. Therefore, a primary key couldn't be an address or a birth date, as someone may have the same address or birth date. However, for a student ID, the primary key can most definitely be utilized. The primary key field in the Students table is named Student ID. Notice the records in the data sheet are arranged in order of the ID values. Tap or click to place the insertion point within any field value in the student last name column. Here, we're going to tap or click the Ascending button in the Sort and Filter group found under the Home tab. By selecting the Ascending option, we can alphabetize our student list. Let's close the Students table and save when prompted. Now open the Students form. You'll notice the changes that you save also save the sort. Next, let's open the form called Students. Go ahead and tap or click on the next record to go through a few of the records. Notice that these records are arranged by student ID. Tap or click the First Record button to return back to the very first record. Then, place your insertion point in the student last name field. Then, we can choose the same Ascending button from the Sort and Filter group. Here, we have just alphabetized and sorted our students in a form in ascending order. Now open the Students table. Notice the records are still arranged alphabetically by the students' last names. You can filter a datasheet in Access using the same techniques you learned for filtering a table in Excel. Recall that a filter temporarily hides the rows that you do not want to view. Tap or click the filter arrow. It's the down pointing arrow next to country. From here, we can select a checkbox next to USA to clear it, and then select OK. The datasheet is now filtered to show records for students who reside in Canada only. Let's select the drop-down field again and notice that there is a filter or a funnel icon on the top right-hand corner of this field. Selecting it again will allow you to place a check mark beside Select All and choose OK. All of the records are now displayed. Close the Students table and click No when prompted to save. On page 368, we'll now create a query using the Simple Query Wizard. Queries are used to extract information from one or more tables in the database and display the results in a data sheet. Some queries are used to display fields from more than one table in the same data sheet. For example, in the Library Finds database, the student names are in one table while the fines are in another. A query can combine the names and fines in one data sheet. Other queries are designed to answer a question about the data. For example, which library fines are unpaid? The Simple Query Wizard assists us with creating a query by making selections in a series of dialog boxes. Let's select the Create tab at the top. Under Create, we'll select the Wizard button from the Queries group. There are 4 types of queries that can be created in Microsoft Access. The Simple Query Wizard is the option that we're going to select. Choose OK. Next, it prompts us for what tables or queries that we want to build our query from. At the first Simple Query dialog box, we will select 2 different tables. The first table we'll select from is Table Students. From this table, we're going to select the Student ID field, and since it's already selected, we'll select the single chevron to move it over to the selected fields. Next, we'll also add the student first name. Instead of choosing the chevron, you can also just double-click. Add the fields to the Selected Fields list box in order in which you want the fields displayed in the data sheet. Student ID, student first name, student last name, telephone, and email. Tap or click the tables up at the top, and now we're going to choose another table called Fines. Double tap or double click the following fields in the Available Fields list box: date issued, amount, and if the fine has been paid. Choose Next. From here, it's asking you to choose Detail or Summary. We'll accept Detail, which shows every field of every record. Choose Next. What title do you want for your query? For the title, we'll place Students with Fines. Then tap Finish. On the left-hand side, please be sure to open up the query, Students with Fines. Once the file is open, you'll be able to see the merge of the 2 tables, the students, the fields, and if the fine has been paid or not. Once you're through reviewing, please close out of the query. On page 370, We're now learning about how to create a query using the design view. Every Access object has two views. One view you browse the data, the other view is called Design View, and this is used to set up or define the structure or the layout of the table. With the database still open, we're going to select the Create option. Under Create, we're going to make a query by design. Here we have the table, the Show Table dialog box that tells us all of the objects in the database. We have two tables, two queries, and then there's a third tab that lists all of them. We're going to select the Finds table and then choose Add. You'll notice that the table appears at the top of the document. You can enlarge it a little bit if you need to see all of the information. We're also going to add the Students table. Once the two tables have been added, you can close out of the Show Table dialog box. Moving these two tables around can be done very easily, and resizing can also be done in order to see all of the fields. Here, we're going to add the fields to the very bottom, which is going to generate our query. So instead of doing this in the wizard, we're actually designing it ourselves by selecting the fields from a list. Double tap or double click the following fields in the Finds table, including date issued, amount, and book returned. Double tap or click the following fields in the Students table: student's first name, student's last name. Tap or click the Run button in the Results group. Here, you can see how the query has compiled the information that you've requested. A query is simply a set of instructions for which table names and field names display in a data sheet. The query results data sheet is not a duplicate copy of the data. Each time a query is opened or run, the data is generated by extracting the field values from the tables. Tap or click the Save button in the Quick Access toolbar. Save the query as Book Returned List and select OK. Close the Book Returned List query and leave the database open for our next topic. On page 372 of your textbook, we'll now enter criteria to select records in a query. Let's open the Students with Finds query. Tap or click the View button in the Views groups of the Home tab. Do not tap or click the down pointing arrow on the button. By selecting this view, you can see how we're toggling back to the Design view. Selecting it again will take us to the Datasheet view. Once again, we'll go to the Design view. This view is found on all of the objects, so keep that in mind as we continue to build. Once we have viewed this in the Design view, we're going to make a few changes. Tap or click in the Criteria box in the Find Paid column. In the criteria, we're going to set if we want if we need to see the fine paid or not. We're going to type no. As you type no, the function wizard displays now in a drop-down list. Typing a space after no causes the now function to disappear. Find paid is a field in which the field value is either yes or no. By typing no in the criteria box, you are instructing Access to select the records from the Finds table, which no is the field value of the fine paid. Select Run. Now, our query only lists those students who have not paid their fines. Notice there are 10 records. Let's save our file. Here. Next, we'll choose the File tab, and instead of choosing to save our database, we're going to save our object. Save object as. And then choose Save As. We're going to choose to save this as unpaid fines. And it will be saved as a query. Choose OK. Now a new query has been created of the unpaid fines. Close the unpaid fines query and leave the database open. On the bottom of page 373, it lists some other criteria examples that could be used to fine-tune your query. Let's turn now over to page 374 of your textbook, and we'll learn how to enter multiple criteria to select records and sort a query. With the database still open, tap or click the view to switch to the design view. But first, let's open the unpaid query fines. Then switch to design view. Tap or click in the criteria box in the amount column. Then select greater than 5. Type in greater than 5 and press enter. Then choose the Run button. Here you can see fines that students owe more than $5. Let's choose to save this object as a query. And we'll save unpaid fines over $5 and choose OK. Next, let's select the Create tab and choose another query design. Double tap or double click Students in the Show Table dialog box, and then choose the Close button. Let's select the following fields: City, Student ID, Student First Name, Student Last Name, and Telephone. Tap or click in the criteria box in the City column. For the city, let's type Detroit. Then, in the line underneath, we can also look for students who live in Windsor. Tap or click the Run button. Now we have students who only reside in Detroit or Windsor. Tap or click the View button to go back to Design View. The query is sorting by ascending or descending in the Sort List box of the column of which you want to sort. Step 9, City was placed first in the design grid because Access sorts query results by columns grouped left to right. Tap or click in the Sort List box in the City column to place the insertion point. Choose the drop-down and then select Ascending. Tap or click in the Student Last Name field for the Sort field and select Ascending. Now choose Run. Now you have your students in alphabetical order according to their last name and city in which they reside. Let's save our query. As Detroit and Windsor students. Next, we're going to create a calculated field in a query and then preview our data sheet. On page 376, we're going to open the Fines Issued query. From here, let's switch to the design view. Tap or click in any cell in the telephone column. Tap or click the Delete Columns button in the Query Setup group of the Query Tools Design tab. Here, we're going to select to delete the columns. The telephone field has been removed. We'll also delete the overdue books and the book return field. With Fine Paid as the active field, tap or click the Insert Columns in the Query Setup group. With the insertion point positioned in the field box, we're going to add a new field called Fine with Admin Fee. Then, place a colon and type in amount in brackets plus 2.50 and then press enter. You might notice that Access will remove the 0 at the end of the formula. If you can't see all of it, you can increase the grids in between. That way you can see the total name. Tap or click the Run button. Notice that the calculated field is not formatted as the same as the amount field. And the column needs to be widened to show the entire column heading. Tap or click in any cell of the Fine with Admin Fee column. Then, click the More button in the Records group and choose Field Width. Let's choose Best Fit. Switch to Design View. Tap or click in any cell in the calculated column. Then, select the Property Sheet button under the Show Hide group of the Query Tools Design tab. From the property sheet, you'll notice on the right-hand side we have some additional properties that we can set forth. Tap or click in the Format box. Using the drop-down, we can select Currency. Close the Property Sheet task pane. Then select Run. Now you can see the administration fee has been formatted accordingly. Tap or click the File tab and select Print Preview. From here, you can see how the document would print on portrait orientation. We're going to change to a landscape orientation. Now all of the columns will print on one page. Close out of the print preview mode. Save your database and close out of all of your open tables, queries, reports, or forms. This concludes Microsoft Access Chapter 12. In Chapter 13, you'll be learning some advanced features, including adding fields to existing tables and how to make a report. Thanks for joining me for Chapter 12 of Microsoft Access. Look forward to working with you in Chapter 13.